Joining me right now is Eric Uresk, Phuket Top Team coach. What's going on, Eric?
Oh, just relaxing. Just got done finishing some submission grappling for the morning and had a couple private lessons. So I'm just kind of cooling out now. Pretty much done for the rest of the day. So
How is
take it
life
easy.
on the island?
It's island life, man. Just train, surf, chill out at the beach. It's real relaxed, man. Like other than gym life, a little bit of the beach. Like I spend a lot of my time like drinking coffee, reading, like listening to podcasts and stuff like that. Like my life's pretty simple.
What kind of podcasts are you into?
I guess like the same podcast every other BJJ nerd's into. Like I listen to a lot of Rogan and like a lot of the offshoots of a lot like Joey Diaz podcast, Duncan Trussell. I like Tom Segura. I've been listening to a lot of Theo Vaughn lately. I like a lot Sam Harris. Listen to a lot of talks from Jordan Peterson and guys like that. So
Definitely. Those are some good podcasts. You gotta
yeah,
laugh. You gotta laugh, and they're pretty
yeah, keeps
interesting
my day going. Yeah,
for sure.
my girlfriend likes it too. So we just always have something on in the house at the whenever throughout the course of the day.
All right, before we get into the coaching stuff, I wanted to talk about your fight career a little bit.
Sure.
You fought between the years of 2005 and your last fight was in 2014
Yeah.
at Kowloon Fight 11.
Yeah.
Are the gloves hung up forever?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I'll still. Well, let me rephrase that. My MMA gloves are hung up forever. There's a good chance I'll take Muay Thai fights just because I get the itch. I plan on competing in grappling, like super fights and tournaments and stuff, pretty heavily this year. Like, I can still compete with the best in the world as far as grappling is concerned. But as far as MMA, it takes so much. Like I only know one way to prepare for a fight, and it's all consuming, and I can't be a successful coach and do that at the same time. Like, could I physically fight right now? Yeah, I could physically be able to get myself up for a fight right now, no problem, and do all right. But yeah, it's just not where I'm at in my life. I just that ship has sailed, and I'm just in this part of my life right now. I get my competitive edge out, between the wrestling and grappling training that I do. But I got to give the time to my fighters right now, and it's only fair that I give them most of my focus. So.
When was the turning point? Like when you really decided, like, hey, I got to stop doing this. I got to
You
stop
know,
cage fighting.
I just fights kept getting canceled and canceled and canceled, and man, I've probably lost about 7 years total of fighting out of my career to fights canceled. So, in the 10 years or so that I fought, 7 of those years were fights getting canceled. Like sometimes it was 2.5 years in a row of just fights getting canceled over and opponents pulling out last minute. Occasionally I'd get injured, but usually it was just guys pulling out. And, I trained for I was getting ready to fight in, I believe it was Full Metal Dojo. I was going to do a fight here in Bangkok. And, yeah, my guy pulled out like 3 days before. And I just my soul was just gone. I had thrown so much into it. I really felt good. Mentally, I was in a good place where, I hadn't been in a while. Yeah, I just took it as a sign, like, I just don't know if I could put that much of my life into something and not have it pan out again. And, I was, I don't know, how old was I at the time? Maybe 34, 35, I think. I'm 37 now. So it's like, yeah, it just felt like time. I just didn't feel like I had anything else to prove. I was okay with myself personally, and a lot of the chip on my shoulder was gone. And I needed that chip on my shoulder to, as something to drive me to the gym every day. To prepare. So when I train like I still train like a maniac. I still train twice a day. But when you're training for a fight, it's different. It was just time, and I knew coaching was going to be. I knew I had a feeling early on that coaching would be something that that I was going to end up doing and end up enjoying quite a bit. So it wasn't that hard.
In your early years, you were in Vegas. You worked with the likes of Neil Melanson, Randy
Yeah,
Couture, Sean
yeah,
Tompkins, big,
yeah.
big names, legends of the sport. How big of an impact did these individuals have on your coaching style?
Um, Coaching style, Neil probably had the most impact on me coaching wise. Like I still keep in touch with Neil, and then Neil, I got to work with him again at Alliance when he came over there for a stint. Uh, Neil had a profound effect on me. We have similar dispositions, personality wise, and I think we're both quite methodical. He's even more. He's got everything like almost to like the level of autism, the way he has his stuff like like organized. I'm not quite as organized in him, but I think we're both pretty introspective guys, and we both like the violent style of grappling. Man, just stuff that I worked with Neil when I was 25, 26. I still a lot of that stuff held over, and then getting to work with him later on as I'd matured a little bit. Yeah, it's a huge influence. And just Randy had always been my hero up to that point. So it was really cool to see. A lot of times when you meet your heroes, it's really disappointing, But Randy, you just see he's just a normal guy, He's got his good points and hang-ups just like everybody else. And Sean, Sean was influential. I liked Sean. I run my sparring sessions a lot the way Sean did. Sean was a great guy, man. A good coach, and it's just I was just really blessed to get to work with those guys. I don't know, I just got lucky, really, But yeah, it was cool. It was a good time in life for sure.
After that time period, you actually went over to Alliance in San Diego for
Sure.
about 4 or 5 years around that time, right?
Yeah, about 4 years.
About that amount of time, and you were the wrestling and grappling coach. Actively
that
competing.
kind of happened by default.
You're by default. You're just pushed into it?
It was weird, man. So I was on a break between Vegas, and so a lot of times I'd spend my summers bouncing in clubs in the Hamptons just to make money, so I could go back out again and focus on training. And I was just not doing much. Like I didn't have any plans to go back to Vegas at the time, and just things in my personal life were a mess. And I kind of got a call. I got a call from a friend of mine that he used to coach Joe Stevenson, and he ran Joe Stevenson's camp when Joe Stevenson fought BJ Penn for the title. So he remembered me somehow and said, "Hey, BJ Penn needs a training partner for the Frankie Edgar rematch, and yeah, you might have to train with Dominic Cruz a little bit too. Are you interested?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like I've got nothing going on, More, I was excited to train with BJ. I really didn't give a shit about training with Dominic at the time. So I packed my bags. I got the soonest flight I could, headed out to San Diego, got picked up. My coach's wife, Eric Del Fierro's wife, picked me up at the airport, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I just was going to train, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to be anybody's training partner, like, even though that was the agreement, like, yes, like, I was going to train. And showed up, and I believe Dominic was getting ready for the first Scott Jurgensen fight, if I'm not mistaken. And, he had just won the title from Bowles, I think.
WEC days.
I think it was Brian Bowles. Yeah, WEC days still. So I show up at the gym, and I help him a little bit, but I'm more interested in just getting the work in, kind of getting, things going back on track training wise. And I just really like the style. I guess Eric saw an ability of me to, to transfer over what I had, and that role was usually filled by one of the fighters on the team who felt kind of strong in that area. I just kind of fell into a coaching role there as coaching by kind of running the workouts and helping guys with stuff, but you're still a fighter, you know what I mean? You're just kind of running the wrestling workouts. So like a lot of times now, like Phil Davis will run a lot of the workouts there, and or Dominic Cruz or somebody with a wrestling background will kind of run the wrestling workouts now. And I did a lot of the grappling stuff there as well, for a couple of years, and it was awesome. Eric, probably been my biggest influence overall, coaching wise. I think he just doesn't get enough credit. He's a brilliant strategist. So, like, striking wise, he understands distance, range, and stuff very, very well. And then, on the grappling aspect, he knows he's not the most knowledgeable grappler. So he kind of fills in those holes with other coaches, but he kind of puts everything together and game plans, better than anybody I've seen. And his psychological approach to the game is really strong. And it's kind of encouraged me to really delve into that personally and with my fighters as well.
Yeah, I want to get into the psychology of coaching, but before
Sure.
that, that was the beginning of you actively competing and coaching at the same time at a high level.
Yeah, yeah.
How difficult was that balancing act?
Not hard. While I was at Alliance, I never lost a fight. So, I felt great there. Alliance, when I had that good, strong team around me, I felt great. The only time I ever underperformed in my career was when I was coaching myself and not at a good camp. Not at a camp, just kind of running around. Kind of running camps with guys around me with no coach of my own. I think you can't run the whole show by yourself and compete well. At least I can't. You can run 1 or 2 workouts a week. That's not that hard. You're still going to get coached and told what to do. And I don't think it's ever a good idea to be your own head coach.
Definitely not a good idea, right?
No, it's hard, man. It's hard. Human nature is to always take the easier, softer way, even if you're a hard worker. Like, I work my ass off, you know what I mean? But I can always work harder if somebody's telling me to work that much harder. Like I remember, like, I always laugh about this memory. Like, I was driving home. We used to go travel up to King's Rain, when Rain was a gym still, go up and work out with Munoz's guys. And I remember being on the way back to San Diego from LA and just like saying, yeah, I'm pretty sore. I think I'm going to take the morning off. And Del Fierro just laughed in my face. He's like, no, you're not. You live at the gym. You got one job. You're going to be, get up and show up to training in the morning as, yes, sir. Like, still to this day, like, if I'm talking to Del Fierro and he tells me to do something, I just do it, like, it's like, we've been separated for a long time, but he's my sensei still. I still look at him as like my sensei. So, like, within reason, I still listen to the guy and have that respect for him, and I think it's important that no fighter should be above their coach, man. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
So Eric Del Fierro, you said that he was your biggest influence. So
Yeah,
it's safe to say that you honed your coaching skills while at Alliance then.
Yeah, Eric, man, he made me get my passport because he couldn't go with Joey Beltran to UFC Brazil. So, like, I never left the country till then, really, like, other than like walking across the border to Mexico, So yeah, Brazil was the first time I actually really left America on a flight, and because I had to go corner Joey Beltran, and he just whatever, he saw that I could see things, when rounds are going on, and I understood. I understand MMA. I understand how to put the things together, and how the different arts transition and mesh into one another, and just the rhythm of a fight and what a fighter needs to do and what adjustments need to be made in a fight. And he started kind of nurturing that because it's a big fight team and he can't be at every fight. So I think by default he had to start nurturing some of the guys into whoever he saw maybe had some potential to do that stuff as far as a corner goes. So, yeah, man, cornering fights, and I enjoy it. I like the strategy of it, and that's the way my mind works. Probably to my detriment as a fighter, but as a coach, it works really, really well.
It seems like you still have a pretty good relationship with Alliance because a lot of the Alliance guys go to Phuket Top Team and train throughout the year, right?
Yeah, great relationship. I never like to leave it would never be bad blood, you know what I mean? It wasn't me. I was just trying to get fights. I couldn't get fights in Southern California. It's so hard to get fights, and especially when you come from a good gym. A lot of guys duck getting fights from guys from good gyms, and it just was just a move to kind of open things up in my career. Like, I was never really leaving Alliance because I didn't like the training there or anything like that. It's far from it, Yeah, we still have a great relationship. I'll still hit Eric up for advice, and he'll hit me up and ask me what I thought of a fight sometimes, and we just compare notes. I'll go coach there for like a few weeks out of the year when I get holiday time, to kind of take off, go back to the States. I usually go to San Diego, and I like being around the gym, so I never take off. When I take a holiday, I'm just gonna go train and coach somewhere else for a little while, get a little different look. I really don't take much time off. I don't enjoy it, so I just go get a little change of scenery.
Well, you're doing what you love, so you gotta keep doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now you're at PTT. Can you talk about the evolution of you becoming the head coach?
Yeah, sure. So I came there originally to fight and like run the wrestling program, but it was more teaching classes and stuff like that. And I didn't really like personally the way the training structure was set up. So I started doing my own workouts, and like they didn't have any drill sessions at the time. And I'm like, coming from Alliance, man, we drill like almost every day. Like in the evening, I had to get my own drill sessions in, and guys just started following the approach that I was doing. So I was like, I need workout partners. So guys just started coming in when I was going into the gym, and then obviously we had our scheduled sparring times, and it's just that's what I always gravitate. I just seem to gravitate towards. I do my own thing. Guys follow along, cool. They start looking to me for advice and and to coach a little bit, and I guess I kind of fill that role naturally. So I leave Phuket after 1 year. I do my year contract, and I'm like, I had enough of this. Like, but really, I was in a bad place personally, mentally. Like, I just like wasn't really happy, and it was a lot of like personal work that I had to do. And I started working on that when I left, and I realized it wasn't the location; it was me, and parts of me that I wasn't happy with. So as I started to fix that, when I came back, I just kind of fell into the coaching role again. I came back just to train after about 8 months of being away, and somehow or another, and then I just started to embrace it. Like, cool, man, I'll be the head coach. And once I officially retired, then it was an actual job, and then everything just started to take shape, and I started to get guys were following me, and since then, I mean, this year we've had 3 major titles. That's the year. It's July, So since up to June, we've won 3 major titles here. It's just now, I think, been not even 2 years yet as full-time head coach. So things are going well, man.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, your team is growing. You have fighters from all over the world. The coaching philosophy that you try to embed into your fighters, what are some of those?
I'd say as a philosophy, I like to let every fighter be their own fighter. So I don't try to conform anybody to a style. I try to see what a guy does well and help him maximize that, fill in the gaps as needed, and help him be the best martial art he can be. Not everybody's going to fight the way I like to fight, and nor should they, right? It's a body type, personality, all those things play a role, physical gifts. The biggest thing is character development. So I really encourage guys to challenge their fears. And the way somebody trains and fights is going to show you a ton about who they are as a person, right? Where their fears come in. Does a guy fight strong until the guy starts fighting back? Is a guy a bully and doesn't handle being bullied very well? All these things will come out to play, and I'll pick up on it in training, and I'll call people out on it. And if some people can't handle it, and I'm probably not the coach for them, and that's fine. You got to find a coach that you can work with. But I want guys to really get down and work on their weaknesses, both, and it's very hard to not work on the full thing, like your life as a whole. I feel like at some point in time, if your personal life is a wreck, it's going to catch up with you, and it's going to manifest itself in the cage, getting comfortable in that chaos, sorting out through your ego and ego reduction and all that stuff. I'm real big on that, because I personally, like, my professional fighting career for the talent and ability I had was a failure. I was very, very skilled, very good. We fucking crushed people in the gym. And then a lot of times just didn't show up on fight night, or didn't take the risks that I needed to take because my ego was just too massive, and it wasn't for lack of talent or ability, that's for sure. A lot of it was the risks I didn't take because I wanted to be sure about things. And the thing about fighting is there is no surety. You know what I mean? There's no sure thing. It might look good on paper. You still got to show up and fight. That's why you actually have to have the fight, right? So I really try to save my guys from the mistakes that I make. Do not let your ego hinder you from being vulnerable in training, being vulnerable in the fight, and then work through that shit. Work through it. You're either going to win or you're going to lose. We don't know, right? We're going to give you the best shot you can, but you got to be willing to take risks.
You got different personalities that you have to handle, and these fighters have to handle wins and losses, their egos. How much psychology, the power of words goes into coaching?
Oof, tons, man. Tons. I used to have a very hard, and people will tell you I have a hard-nosed way of coaching, but I've learned you can't be in people's face all the time, man. A lot of these people start fighting because their fucking dads beat them up or whatever, so a lot of these guys look to you like a father figure. You gotta know when to soften up a little bit and reach people on that level. And it's my job to find out how to communicate to certain people. Everybody responds to certain things. Some guys like being ridiculed, they like sarcasm and they like that shit. Some guys break from sarcasm, and so I gotta really kind of have my feelers out when I'm going to work with a guy, and figure what's the best way to coach this guy. Sometimes I got to ask him, how do you like to be communicated to? You know what I mean? Sometimes I ask him that, and I figure out that he likes that way of being communicated to, but that's not the best way I'm going to get results out of him. So, it's a chess match. It's a constant chess match, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even, they always say it's a game of inches, but even coaching also, like, you have to almost say the perfect thing at the perfect time to a lot of these fighters to get them to
yes and no. Sometimes I think you're right, but I also give my guys the room to I give my guys the room to grow. I'm like, hey man, look, I'm a human being. I'm fallible, sometimes, and Eric told me this a long time ago. He had a pretty high profile fight, and the guy wanted perfect advice to sort through the fight. And what Eric saw was the way to beat this guy is it's not going to be a technical thing. You got to bite down on your mouthpiece and go after this guy. And the guy didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? He wanted a step by step, like do this technique and this, and that wasn't going to win him the fight. And Eric knew that, and the fighter didn't trust in him, and so he just kept, doing what he was doing, and so sometimes it's not so much the perfect set of words, you know what I mean? It's sometimes all this stuff starts way ahead of time, right? The trust has to be developed like over the course of camp, and if I'm shouting directions in a sparring round and you're not following them, you don't trust me. How do I know you don't trust me? Well, if you trusted me, you do what I told you to do, right? You might think that you trust me, but you don't. Your fear outweighs the trust you have in what I'm telling you to do or asking you to do at the time. So I think it's really about developing trust, and then as you go into the fight, you hope this guy trusts you. And sometimes I might put you in the fire because that's where you got to go to win, and you might get knocked out because I told you to go in the fire. That doesn't mean what I saw wasn't there or I told you to do the wrong thing. You take risks, and sometimes they pan out. Like I said, there's no sure things in fighting. So sometimes, yeah, man. And then that fighter still, I mean, should they not trust me because I sent them in the fire and they got knocked out? Well, that's up to them, and then you got to reassess things after that, I suppose. But yeah, there's all types of risks, and sometimes they don't pan out, But I think trust is the major thing. I got to build trust in this guy that what I'm telling him or her is the best thing. I think the best route for victory.
When fighters come in, are you very selective of who you will coach, or do you accept everybody?
Well, we'll let most people in the room. Sometimes I'll have a guy, his manager called Boyd, the owner, and sent him over, and the guy's just not a good fit. He trains like a dick, he's hurting people, or just do it. Just not a good, just a vibe. We're not gonna go well together. Too much ego, and I'll just tell him, yeah, just probably go train at one of the other gyms around here, or go back home, But we'll let most people in the room, as long as they're, physically capable, or I feel like they're going to add something to the room. And then there's a level of, am I going to coach this guy or not, or guy or girl? And that really goes up to the level of investment they're willing to put in. So, I have guys like Vitaly Big Dash. He's, a one championship superstar. So I work with Vitaly. And then, I have like Ramona, who's got a couple of fights, I like working with Ramona a lot. And it's not because she's like superstar status, because she's really not. She's got a handful of fights. But it's the work that she puts in, like how much work she puts in on the mental side. And I see the effort she puts in, and, how much it fucking destroyed her when her knee got, blown out, or whatever happened to her knee. Like, that girl was shattered. Like, she was putting every ounce of her being into camp. It was like kind of heartbreaking, but it was also cool to see how the team like rallied around her, like through that injury, and it was pretty incredible to see, like, sort of that the brotherhood and sisterhood that kind of develops amongst the teammates. So it's more what are these people going to put into it? How I'm willing to go pretty far. Like, I'm pretty intense. How far are you willing to go? And that'll determine if I'm going to work with you or not, really.
Is there any unknown up-and-comers training at PTT that we should look out for in the future?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I guess, be like my protege, Ben Royal. He just fought at Eternal over the weekend. His second pro fight, absolutely just destroyed his opponent. He's a grappler by trade, put on a Muay Thai striking clinic, and then closed the show in the beginning of the second round. Very cool, calm, and collected. Very cerebral. Assesses his strengths and weaknesses very well and honest. He doesn't delude himself about anything. Such a humble guy. Will never like to talk about himself. Like, his humility. I admire his humility. I wish I could be like that. He's seldom looking for the spotlight. He just wants to go out there and beat people up when it's time to do that, and develop as a martial artist, and works on his mental approach. And I'm just overly impressed with that kid. So he, in my opinion, is UFC bound at some point in time. And then we have Ali Al-Kiyasi. He's fighting for the I think it's the Brave title soon. Out of the Middle East. He's a very talented guy. Has a nasty guillotine, can put people away. Good finishing ability with his submissions. So got some tough guys. Got a bunch of guys that just got contracts to the One Warrior series. So about 3 guys that got contracts to the One Warrior series. That's upcoming. So hopefully in the coming months, they'll be stepping on that stage and trying to get themselves some contracts. And then the usual cast of guys that are already established that just come out for camps. So.
One last question before I let you go. You're a coach, nutritionist, legendary bouncer, I've heard. What is something that most people do not know you are knowledgeable at?
Well, I was prior to getting involved in martial arts, I was I guess a criminal, pretty much. I was pretty much I was going to be a lifelong criminal. That was my goal at 15 years old. It was, street stuff. Grew up in New York in the 90s, and, I knew how to hustle, and I used to set up fake drug deals and then rob the drug dealers when they got there. And, it was a pretty crazy time. But, yeah, that was my life. That's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I was just going to be a street guy and take that as far as I could. And luckily, something intervened, and that didn't happen, and found a little bit better path in life. But it was that's all I knew was that for a long time. It's just hustling and grinding and getting over and cutting corners wherever you could, and just not being a very good person and overall. But luckily I found martial arts and wrestling, and that kind of took me off that path and gave me a way to be a little bit more useful to society. So, I have some crazy stories I'll share with you another time if you care to hear.
Definitely interested.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for your time. If you are in Phuket, go to Phuket Top Team and you'll see Eric there.
Absolutely.
Coaching all the classes and have fun with him. Thank you, man.
Thank you, brother.